Let's talk about the Moline Maroons. Head coach Mike Morrissey took the Maroons to a 9-2 record last year. They're going to be a different looking team this year. They have, a lot of pieces to replace off of that team a year ago. They hope to build depth. Coach Morrissey said through their experience, they have a lot of guys to replace, but they are really excited about the group they have coming up. But, coach said that these new group has to prove it. They got to prove it on Friday nights that they can look good in practice now, but they got to show up in the games and do it.
I mean, they lost a ton of offensive players. It's going to hurt them a little bit. I mean, it's going to take a little bit to get back to where they were, if they can even get back to where they were last year as far as offense. When he told me about the line and only returning one, but he was excited about them, I go, "Are you kidding?" And he said, "No." He's like, "They're just as good, but they're more athletic." Like you said, their line, they have one person returning is, I think it's Nano Cepeda, and they call him the Samurai. And the reason is because the way he has his hair, he looks like a samurai warrior. It's pretty cool. I think Edgy Tim did something with him. He did like an interview with him or something.
I did see that. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. But over their practice, he's not going to reinvent the wheel. Wing tee it is. They're going to run the wing tee. They're going to try to jam it down your throat. They will throw a little bit. They have Xander Ely, who's a pretty good wide receiver. He'll play a little DB for him as well. This is a team that they're not looking to take a step back at all. They were upset with the way the season ended last year, 1 yard short up at Yorkville. That's 2 years in a row Moline has had a team that they could have beat in the second round, and they came up either with a fumble 2 years ago before they got the first down, and they lost the game, and then last year coming up 1 yard short. So this team knows the heartbreak. They want to get past that. When I was at practice the other day, KG Kevin Gorgel was all over some of the linemen. They weren't doing things the right way. He goes, "Look, if we're not going to do it right, we're going to lose by a yard again." And I think they kind of took that to heart. This is a team that will fight for a conference championship. If they can go to Quincy and beat Quincy, they'll win a conference championship. But going to Quincy and beating Quincy is going to be an extremely tough thing to do this year. I don't know if they have the horses, Moline, to hang with Quincy as far as scoring points. But I do like Moline to go 8-1. Maybe that Quincy game is the only one they lose.
Okay.
Moline's won 15 games in a row in conference, 14 in a row on the field. They had a game that they won by forfeit last year. They've won in those 15 games. They've scored 9 times. They've scored 40 points 9 times or more.
Well, let's go through some of their, some of the players that they do return this year. Xander Ely at wide receiver, which Cuff mentioned. Pablo Perez at running back. Chase Stevens at a wide receiver position. Corbin Snell at running back. Adrian Cooper at a running back. Nano Cepeda is the lineman we referenced. Jaquan Johnson at lineman. Eli Taylor at quarterback. And Colin Fredrickson at a running back as well. Defensive side of the ball, Adrian Cooper, like we just mentioned. William DePape on the line. James Solis at a linebacker. Chase Stevens, who we already mentioned. And John Nienhaus at linebacker and DB. So some names, some familiar names there. But it's, they got to learn to work together. Shuck, what do you got?
Well, I think you look 2 years ago, Moline came down to Quincy. Quincy led at halftime. And Moline didn't flinch. They came out and scored 3 rushing touchdowns in the third quarter. Riley Fuller just pounded them between the tackles. And the experience that Moline had and the upperclassmen they had really took control of that game. Do they have that? Do they have those kids that when they're down at halftime to a team that could potentially win the Big Six, or a team they're fighting for a playoff spot, or all those things? Do they have that experience? Do they have that knowledge to go, okay, we're going to come back out and win it? Or are we waiting to see if they can do that? I think right now that's where I think Moline is. I think, like Stock said, you reload. You're Moline, you reload. You don't rebuild, you reload. So, but if you don't have the senior experience, it could take a toll.
Dazzo, you got anything? What do you got?
And yeah, some of those guys last year, you just knew we're going to get the job done. And I think maybe a theme we're having here is like the difference between potential and like looking good and actually have done it. Moline is still a question mark, because while they have reloaded and I want to talk about 2 quick players real fast after this, but I think even Mike Morrissey would say, I feel great about this group. I think they look really good. I think they're going to be good. I think we can do all these things. But last year he could say that and then say, because we did it last year in this game, this game, this game, this game. Like that's a great, I mean, Stock has the stats. He's staff guy for a reason. So he had all those things, but those guys are gone. Like all of those that winning streak, I'm not saying all of them are gone, but a lot of those guys are gone, so they have to do it again. Adrian Cooper, I keep hearing fantastic stuff about. He was a sophomore last year. His best 4 games were the last 4 games. I think he only played a lot of varsity the last 4 games, but if you remember against Yorkville, the 2 biggest plays of the game for Moline both came from Adrian Cooper. Really good kid. I've talked to Mike Morrissey about him. Great kid, quiet kid, but a really good football player. I think that's a guy that you're going to hear that name more and more this season. And I think he's a college football player someplace in the near future in 2 years. And then the DePape kid who comes over from Pleasant Valley, his older brothers playing Big Ten football with Michigan State. That's a nice get. Somebody you can add size and strength to the front of your defensive line and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's Moline. We like them because they're so close to the station that when they kill somebody, they have running clock and they can come join us for the score on the grill instead of all that, instead of having to do Zooms and stuff. So yeah, I mean, they're going to be in the conversation. We'll get to, I'm assuming we'll probably do some type of picks or something like that later, but yeah, they're going to be in the mix. It's just not the Moline team that is going to be really good. You just think they're going to be really good, and you just have to wait to see it unfold.